In 1961, the Central Intelligence Agency looked at the global struggle between two nuclear superpowers, weighed the fate of the free world, and decided what the situation really called for was a cat with a microphone in it. Not a metaphorical cat. An actual cat. A living, breathing, deeply indifferent house cat, surgically rebuilt into a piece of espionage equipment. The project had a code name because everything at the CIA has a code name, and this one was Acoustic Kitty. Somewhere in a government building, a grown adult wrote that down and nobody stopped them. To understand how this happened, you have to understand the problem they were trying to solve. The early 1960s were the paranoid heart of the Cold War. The Americans wanted to hear what the Soviets were saying. In their embassies, in their parks, on the benches where officials liked to talk in the open air precisely because they assumed no wall had ears. Bugging a room was hard. People swept rooms for bugs. People noticed strangers. People noticed microphones. But nobody notices a cat. That was the insight. A cat could wander up to a park bench, curl up near two diplomats, and sit there doing the thing cats do best, which is absolutely nothing, while secretly recording every word. It was, on paper, brilliant. It was the kind of idea that sounds genius right up until the moment you have to actually build it, and then it becomes the most expensive science experiment in the history of pets. The job fell to the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology, the division responsible for the agency's gadgets. These were serious people. These were the people who could turn a fountain pen into a camera and a coat button into a transmitter. And now they were being asked to turn a cat into a listening device, which it turns out is a meaningfully harder problem, because pens do not have opinions, and cats have nothing but. The surgery was real. Veterinary surgeons opened the cat up and implanted a microphone in its ear canal. They placed a small radio transmitter at the base of its skull. They threaded a thin wire antenna up along the cat's spine and into its tail, so the animal itself became the aerial. The battery went inside the body cavity. When they were finished, they had taken an ordinary cat and rebuilt it, organ by organ, into a furry, four-legged surveillance platform that could walk into enemy territory and walk back out. And the whole time, it would look exactly like a cat, because it was one. It was just a cat that cost more than a house. And here's the first place the dream met reality. They switched the cat on, and it worked. The microphone picked up sound. The transmitter transmitted. The engineering was, by every account, a genuine triumph. The agency had done the impossible. They had built the world's first cybernetic spy cat. Then they let it outside. The trouble with using a cat as a precision instrument is that a cat is not a precision instrument. A cat is a small, opinionated animal that has been ignoring human instructions for roughly 10,000 years and has no plans to start now. You cannot tell a cat to walk over to that specific bench. You cannot tell a cat to stay. You especially cannot tell a hungry cat to ignore the smell of food, because a hungry cat will ignore the entire concept of the mission, the Cold War, and the United States government, all at once, in favor of a sandwich. This was the flaw the engineers had somehow not built a circuit for. They had solved the microphone, they had solved the antenna, the battery, the transmitter. They had not solved the cat. And the cat, it turned out, was the entire project. So they tried to train it. They spent, this is the part that genuinely strains belief, years and a great deal of money attempting to teach a cat to go where it was told. They tried to condition it to ignore hunger so it wouldn't abandon a stakeout the second a pretzel cart rolled by. At one point, the story goes, they had to perform a second surgery just to address the fact that the cat kept wandering off whenever it got hungry, because the only thing harder than wiring a cat for sound is convincing it to care. Estimates of the total cost run as high as $20 million. $20 million. For comparison, that was enough in 1960s money to fund a small actual intelligence operation run by actual humans who could be relied upon to walk in a straight line. Instead, it bought one cat, several surgeries, a training program, and a slowly dawning sense of institutional regret. Eventually, after all the money and all the surgery and all the patient doomed attempts to negotiate with an animal that does not negotiate, they decided it was ready. It was time for the field test. They drove the cat to a target, by most accounts a Soviet compound in Washington, D.C., parked a van nearby, opened the door, and released America's most expensive cat into the wild to begin its first mission. And this is where the legend takes over, because the most famous version of the ending is also the most disputed. According to Victor Marchetti, a former CIA officer who later talked about the program, they let the cat out of the van, and the cat, free at last, with millions of dollars of taxpayer-funded technology stitched into its body, and the hopes of the intelligence community resting on its small, furry shoulders, stepped into the road and was immediately hit by a taxi. That's the story everyone tells. The first mission of the world's only cyborg spy cat lasted approximately the length of one street and ended under the wheels of a cab, which is either the saddest or the funniest moment in the history of espionage, depending on whether you're a taxpayer or a cat. Now, in fairness, and Grapefruit believes in fairness, that ending may be too good to be entirely true. The documents that were eventually declassified are heavily censored and don't actually confirm the taxi. Some historians think the taxi is a flourish, a story that got better every time someone retold it, the way these things do. What the official record does suggest is almost more damning, that after all those years and all that money, the agency simply concluded that using cats for surveillance was not and was never going to be practical. They didn't lose the cat to a taxi. They lost the entire idea to the basic, unchangeable nature of cats. A declassified memo from the period, released decades later, thanked the team for their work and noted with the strangled politeness of a government that has just wasted a fortune that their efforts had been a great scientific achievement, even if the program itself would not be moving forward, which is the bureaucratic way of saying, this was incredible, brilliant, world-class work, and we will never speak of it again. The program was quietly shut down in 1967. The files stayed secret until 2001, when they were declassified and the public got to learn that for several years, at the height of the Cold War, some of the smartest engineers in America had been locked in a battle of wills with a cat and had lost. It's easy to laugh at, and you should. That's free. But there's something almost admirable buried in it. The Acoustic Kitty engineers were given an absurd assignment, and they very nearly pulled off the impossible part. The technology worked. The microphone worked, the antenna worked, the whole insane Frankenstein machine worked. The only thing that defeated them was a problem no amount of money or genius could engineer away, which is that a cat will always be a cat. There's a lesson in there, if you want one. You can have the best technology in the world, a limitless budget, and a room full of geniuses, and you can still be undone completely by failing to account for the one variable nobody could control. The Soviets feared American satellites and American spies and American nuclear submarines. They never had to fear Acoustic Kitty because Acoustic Kitty never made it across the street. Somewhere in the archives, there is a real document written by a real intelligence officer that represents the formal conclusion of years of work and millions of dollars. And the conclusion amounts to a single discovery, one that any cat owner on Earth could have told them for free on day one. The cat does not work for you, you work for the cat.